Hi everybody and welcome to another BK Academy tutorial here on the BK Golf Clash YouTube channel. We are going to be looking at rough irons and sand wedges. A very simple method, been used in the community for a while now, will help you absolutely to drop more shots and save yourselves out of those tricky situations. Before I bring you all the details on this one, thumb up will be massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Totally free to do so. Now, as well as this video, there's loads of others in the Academy series, looking at all elements of the game, whether you're playing tour play, tournaments, or checkpoint challenge, little tips and tricks and methods you can use to get better at the game and consequently, of course, do better in your tour play and your tournaments, win those chests, upgrade your clubs. And they are all designed to be short and helpful, so check them all out. Now, this one ties in with the one about the ENDBRINGER method. Now that is a very, very well-known method now in the game. Wasn't so a few years ago, but definitely is now. If you are not familiar with that one, check that one out because it's the same kind of method that we're going to use for the rough irons and the sand wedges. So we'll put the link in the video description down below. So check out my QUICKFIRE ENDBRINGER method. As I said, purpose of this video is to give you the method for rough irons and sand wedges. Doesn't matter if you are close to the hole or further away. This method will work regardless of your club distance and of course will work regardless of the power of ball that you are using. You can use it in any game mode as well. It will, by all means, when executed correctly and with a perfect ball of course, help you drop more shots. So let's get right in to the method for rough irons and sand wedges. Now, who can use this one? I would recommend most players use this method, but you will really need a club with a decent ball guide. I would kind of say have a club with a ball guide over 4.0, preferably around 4.2, 4.4. Otherwise, you're going to have to leave the ball guide short. It's very similar to the ENDBRINGER. It does help if you get a good ball guide on this one. So we're going to assume you've got a decent Nirvana or Malibu, for instance. You can start using this right away. So very similar to the ENDBRINGER method. What you're going to do if you find yourself in the rough or the sand, you are going to have your camera zoomed out to kind of a helicopter view, straight vertical view down onto the course, aerial view, and you're going to have the ball. I use the take shot button. I line the ball up with the top edge of the take shot, and then I'm going to move my target bullseye of either the rough iron or the sand wedge up to max distance, not stretching into the red just before you get that red line. So you're at max distance of club. You're going to have a series of images here. What you quickly need to do when you are presented with your shot here is to work out where that pin stands in between your ball and max distance of the club. So you can see on this next picture, I've marked on the minimum line where the ball is, the black line on the bottom, that is horizontal to where the ball is, and the white line on the top goes through the bullseye at max distance of my club. Doesn't matter what power ball you are using. Then what you're going to do is imagine that the ball is 0% on the slider and the target is 100% on the slider. You will need a wind app for this one, but that's the same as most of the things really to drop more shots on the Academy tutorials. It does help if you use a wind app. It's absolutely essential in this case. Then I'm visualizing 50% of the way and I'm looking at where that pin stands. Now obviously if that pin was on the blue line, I'd be playing this one mid-distance. So you are setting the slider value of where you think the pin stands between the ball, which is 0, and max club, which is 100. So exactly the same as the ENDBRINGER method. Now we're going to take a look at the full video of this shot next, and you can see that method in action. There you can see we're in the rough. I'm lining up the ball to be at the top of the take shot button. I'm stretching out my target to max. You'll see the red line there just appearing there. So I know I'm at max distance of club. I'm visualizing where that pin is. I estimate this to be just over 50%. So in the end, I'm playing 53% slider. Now, with the ENDBRINGER method, the base elevation was 20%. Now, for the rough irons or the sand wedges, doesn't matter if it's the rough iron or the sand wedge, they're going to play the same. Your base elevation is going to be minus 30. So for a flat shot, where you wouldn't normally play downhill or uphill. So in a normal scenario, if you would play this shot 0 elevation, your base elevation for rough irons and sand wedges is going to be minus 30, so negative 30. You need to use no spin where possible, and you need to have that ball guide just going through the back of the cup. This shot, therefore, I'm playing it 53% on the slider, minus 30 elevation, centering the ball, all importantly to do that. And of course, what many argue to be the trickiest part of the shot is to hit perfect. There you can see we're dropping that one nicely there, glancing the pin and falling. So negative 30 is your base elevation. We're going to look at some other examples now, because this will work, like I said, regardless of whether you're close to the green or whether you're further away. So some more examples coming up. Here's one with a sand wedge, just to prove it works for sand wedges. We are, of course, nearer the pin here, so exactly the same as before. We've got a good ball guide, so we don't need to worry about that. Lining up the ball, stretching out to max club in a vertical line with the pin, ball guide going over the pin. Now, I'm visualising my halfway point, and I think this pin is between my ball and the halfway point. So I'm going to say this one is 25% of the way between my ball and max club. So we're going to play this one 25% slider. This looks like a flat shot to me, not downhill, not uphill. So again, I'm going to use minus 30 as my base elevation. No spin, we're getting a good ball guide. The tip of the ball guide is going just through the back of the cup, because the last thing you want to do if you are adjusting this shot properly and hitting perfect is to come in with not enough pace and leave the ball on the front edge of the cup. We don't like going short in lines, so having that ball guide just through the back of the hole prevents this from happening. Centering the ball as best we can. A bit of an unintentional curl there. Make sure you don't have that one, for goodness sake. And we're just dropping it here, left edge of the pin. So that one, 25% on the slider. Now we're going to look at an example further away. And you might think, well, I'm never going to drop rough irons when they are nearly at max distance. But in this one, I'm going to show you a video of it threatening max distance of club. We're on the Milano here. Again, it's a fairly flat elevation, no downhill, no uphill. We've got crosswind, so we are going to need to adjust here. Stretching out, I'm estimating this one to be in the 80s, to be quite honest. We're definitely over 75% of the way between the ball and max club with where the pin is. And in the end, I estimate this to be around 82% slider. So the same thing applies. We're going to try and get a good ball guide, even though this is a bit of a bumpy green. We manage it. No spin. You can use a little bit of top spin, a little bit of back spin to get around any glitches, but you try and use no spin if possible. Tip of the ball guide going just through the back of the cup, and then making our adjustment once again. 82% slider, minus 30 elevation, minus 30. Make sure you've got that negative value in. Now I'm going to explain next what you will do if you are faced with a more downhill or uphill shot. I've got an example of that as well. But just to prove this works, at, like I said, greater distance away, pardon the disconnect there, not any of my doing, of course, but we still focus and we still manage to get a perfect ball away. And you will see this one soars into the air very nicely and rolls onto the green. And we're dropping it here from close to max distance of our club. So we've looked at flat shots. What are we going to do if we're playing an uphill or a downhill shot? Well, you just modify your base elevation with the adjustment you'd normally make. So for example, if the shot you would be playing normally 20% downhill, you're going to add that on to your minus 30. Now obviously, because we're a negative number and we're adding, you would then play that shot at minus 10. On the other side of the coin, obviously, if you're playing an uphill shot, something you'd normally play minus 10, you've got to subtract that from your minus 30 base elevation. So uphill shots, you'd maybe play minus 40 or minus 50. Now we've got an example of one here. This one, we're looking at this par 5 here. This approach always plays uphill. I'd usually play this minus 10. But because our base elevation for flat shots is minus 30 with this method, I'm going to then subtract another 10% elevation. So this one I'm going to play at minus 40. And you can see we're not quite halfway where the pin is there between max club and the ball. We're about 40%. So in the end, I think I played this one around 42% on the slider. Again, ball guide just through the hole, 42% slider, minus 40 elevation. It's not going to be many rings at all, even with the Nirvana level 7. You can see now, looking at that ball guide through the back of the cup, that's why I suggest you use this method with a club or clubs with decent ball guides. So uphill example here, just to prove this still works. We're playing this one minus 40. Slider value on where the pin stands between your ball and max distance of your club. You can see we're just sneaking that one in. So what have we learned in this video? The main points are now up on screen, and a couple of extra things to note as well. So our base elevation for flat shots, minus 30%. Slider value that you are going to set in your wind app, regardless of what wind app you're using, as long as you've got the slider, you'll be fine. Where the pin stands between the ball and your max club distance. Now, one thing I didn't mention, you're going to use the same power settings in your wind app as the ball you're using. So if you're using a Kingmaker, you're going to use power 3 settings. If you're using a basic ball, you're going to use power 0 settings. It will adjust the numbers, so make sure you are matching up with the ball that you're using. You're going to increase that base elevation for downhill, so you might want to play minus 20 or minus 10. You're going to decrease it for uphill, so you might want to play minus 40 or even minus 50. And the all-important thing, no spin, and get that tip of the ball guide going just through the hole. Of course, the one thing that isn't on there is you do still have to hit perfect. However, as with all things in this game, practice makes perfect, so match up with some buddies. Go into Tour 3 or Tour 4 or play some Tour Play. Remember, if you've got the Tour Maxed, you can't lose your trophies now. So go in there, burn a few balls and maybe some practice tokens in tournaments. Intentionally get yourself in the rough or the sand. Get used to that different needle speed on the rough and sand wedges. And then you will have a better chance, if your shots don't go to plan, of course, of saving it from the rough. Thank you for watching this Academy video. Leave me a comment. Please share it with your friends and clanmates in the game as well, as they may not know how to use this method, and I do hope it helps them as well as you drop more shots from the rough or the sand. Take care, guys. Enjoy your games, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.